What's up guys, it's Nick True here, and today I'm on my way to New Hampshire for a wedding. Now, as you probably know, weddings can get pretty expensive, and so I'm going to take you on this trip with me and show you how you can attend your friend's wedding, even if you don't have a ton of money, because I'm going to do this trip on the cheap. Now, I'm going to give you a few tips on how to book your flights, when to book them, what to do about rental car situation, where to stay, and even where to eat. But first, I got to catch my flight. Part of doing this whole trip on the cheap thing means taking flight times that other people don't really want. So I was up at 4 a.m. this morning, got to catch my flight at 6:30. It's about to leave. So I'm gonna get on that and I will see you in Boston. Now this is my rental car, and yes, it was the cheapest option. All right, so I made it to Boston, I picked up my rental car, and now I'm on my way to Rochester, New Hampshire for this wedding. But first I gotta run around the corner here and go into Walmart and pick up a few essentials so that I don't spend a ton on eating out this weekend. I got some waters, some crunchy bars, peanut butter, bananas, and something to dip the peanut butter with. So why this car? Well, you have to understand that I'm 24 years old. I'm actually gonna turn 25 next month, which makes this even more frustrating. But every single rental car company tacks on a hefty fee for people who are under 25 years old. What starts as a $30 a day car quickly turns into taxes and fees, plus a $25 or $30 underage fee. Yes, they literally sometimes double the cost of the car. So this trip, I decided to try out a new service, or at least it's new to me, called Turo. And it's kind of like Airbnb for cars. You basically rent somebody else's car for however long you need it. Now, initially, when I was looking at the prices, I thought this was going to be an absolute steal. Like, if you just go on there and look, you're like, wow, this is a great freaking deal. But unfortunately, like a lot of companies, they do have some hidden fees and some kind of gotchas that you got to look out for. Once I started digging around, I realized that almost every one of these cars had a pretty hefty delivery fee if I wanted them to basically give it to me at the airport. So the car might only be $100 for the weekend, but then they were going to charge me $120 just to meet me at the airport. So that wasn't going to work. So I basically ended up choosing the car that had the lowest per day rate, but also was the closest proximity to the airport, so that I could go and get the car but not have to spend a ton of money on Uber and Lyft, because see, Uber and Lyft inside Boston tend to be pretty expensive. Now again, when it's all said and done, I don't know if this is going to be the best option. Turo is certainly not going to be the best option in every single city for every single person, but it is an alternative that I tried out this time that I'm hoping is going to work out well. All right, so it is now Saturday morning. I have stayed one night in my Airbnb, and as you can see, it's not your typical Airbnb. It's actually a campground, but it's not really a campground either. Actually, it's an old house. So I got to looking around at the hotels in the area, and it was going to be like $100, $120 a night for me to stay. Plus taxes, 2 nights, I was going to end up paying $250, $260 a night just to stay here. And really, all I need is somewhere to sleep and somewhere to shower. Now, typically for a trip like this, when Hannah and I are doing something that we're really trying to go cheap on, we will stay in Walmart Supercenter parking lots and then find a truck stop nearby to pay for a $10 shower. I know that sounds kind of crazy, and some people just think that's absolutely nuts, but it's really not bad. When you think about spending $250 just for 2 places to lay your head down and 2 places to shower, Walmart parking lots get extremely attractive, because if you can make a comfortable spot in your car, which we typically can because we're pretty good at this by now, and then you can pay for 2 showers, $10 each for me and Hannah, you're talking about $40 over the course of 2 days versus $250. It's a no-brainer. Now here, I couldn't find a good truck stop nearby at all that had any kind of showers that were reliable, so I ended up finding this option on Airbnb that ended up being right around $37 a night. So I'm talking about $74 over the course of 2 days versus like $250, $260 over the course of a couple days. It made no sense to not do this at that point. But I've got a few more things to take care of here. Then I'm gonna run to Starbucks and I think get a few things done on the laptop for a couple hours, and then I'm heading to the wedding this afternoon. So I'll see you in a bit. All right, so I'm back in Boston. I just got here this morning. Luckily, last night I ended up making some good friends with some of the other bridal party that I didn't know previously, and one couple ended up inviting me back to their place, which is about an hour and a half from where the wedding was and only about 45 minutes from the airport. So I took them up on that that offer, and I slept there last night. That saved me like a 2-hour drive this morning and having to get up at like 3:30, so I was very happy to do that. I still had to pay for the last night of my Airbnb, which was, you know, around $30, but it was well worth it to me. Now, one other quick thing that has come up, which is why I didn't want to record this whole video at the beginning, because I thought something like this might happen. So it turns out that the app Turo, I don't want to bash it, but I'm definitely not as excited about it as I was at the beginning. I'm not saying you shouldn't use it or that it won't save you money, but I'm afraid for me that it's actually not going to save me much money at all. This guy in particular charges 75 cents per mile above 200 miles. So in addition to filling the tank up and then the 200 miles that you get, if you charge anything over that, you 75 cents a mile, which is pretty hefty. I think the government rate is like 50 cents a mile, so that means if you're working a job, then the maximum your company can reimburse you for is 50 cents a mile, but that typically includes gas. So 75 cents a mile is extremely high. Now I tried to look at Google Maps beforehand and see from the airport to the wedding venue and my Airbnb and try and figure out how many miles I think I would have driven beforehand, but unfortunately my estimating was way off. I thought I would drive like 220, 240 miles. I ended up driving a little closer to 320 miles, and that just had to do with all the back and forth between the Airbnb and the wedding venue that I maybe didn't account for, and then off the beaten path last night to stay at, you know, the other groomsman's house. So that's gonna end up being a pretty hefty fee. I'll let you know when I get back to the Airstream kind of what the totals all come out to and whether or not it ended up being a good deal. I think Turo could be a good deal in concept, or at least in idea, but in practicality, there's a lot of little gotchas and a lot of little terms and conditions that apply that seems to be set arbitrarily by every single car owner. And so if you're gonna use it, I think just plan on using, you know, a little more time to really make sure you're doing your research and doing and getting the deal that you actually think that you're getting. It is about time for me to head over to the airport, so I'm gonna head that way and then we will talk flights and how to book them over there. All right, so I made it back to Nashville, but now let's actually talk about a couple strategies for getting good deals on flights. When it comes to flying, there's basically one of two ways that you should look at trying to get a good deal. The first way is if you're just paying straight up cash, if you're just buying a ticket outright. What you want to do is you probably don't want to book directly with the airline. You probably want to book using a third-party site. In the past, I've used Cheapo Air and Kayak. Now, this is not sponsored, this is just my experience. Cheapo Air has been the best for me, hands down. Now, the second way that you can look at trying to book a cheap flight would be actually using miles or points to do this. What I did in this scenario is I knew that this trip and a couple others were coming a long time in advance. And so the last time that I did a big credit card spree, which you can find me talking about in a couple other videos, but essentially it's where I apply for 3 or 4 credit cards all at once to get their sign-up bonuses. And then I make sure I hit the minimum spending requirements in those 3 months and then pay them all off. And then I can take the bonuses and use them at a later date. So I did a Delta SkyMiles card about a year ago, and I got 50,000 bonus miles in like 2 months. And so I was able to do this particular trip with 100% miles that didn't cost me a single dime. I was able to get a round trip ticket from Nashville to Boston and back for about 15,000 Delta SkyMiles. And that only comes out to about $180 because Delta values their SkyMiles on average about 1.2 cents per mile. So if you know that you've got things coming up and you really want to be able to try and do things cheaply, then the best way to do it is if you are comfortable and disciplined with credit cards to use what's called travel hacking or credit card hacking to get those points for you. Now, the last thing that I want to say about booking a flight is to please, please, please do your research on when is the most optimal time for you to book your flight. So what I did is I just spent a little time Googling, and I realized that when you're booking with Delta and you're booking a domestic flight, the best time is to book your flight about 6 weeks out from the trip on like a Tuesday evening. That is the most optimal time to get a cheap ticket. For instance, this trip, I looked at the flight just for fun on Sunday afternoon, and this round trip ticket was 30,000 points. Now keep in mind, just 2 days later, I ended up booking this flight on Tuesday night for 15,000 points. It was literally half as much. All right, so I finally made it back to the Airstream here in Alabama. I run all the numbers and I have everything for you. So here is the breakdown of what everything cost me. We've got a free flight, but it was really a $180 flight that I was able to use points for. We've got Turo, which is that car rental service that I used that ended up not being maybe as good a deal as I had hoped. So I had $156.72 for the initial cost with that. I had to pay an extra $20 $25 extension fee because I messed up at the very beginning when I was booking the exact times, and I needed some more time in order to, you know, go and do a car wash, which brings me to that point. I didn't read the fine details evidently well enough, but I swear it was not on the page that I initially booked with. It was only after the fact that the guy texted me and said that I was required to wash the car before I brought it in. So that was another $7, but really it was the $25 that killed me because I didn't have enough time in there to go do it without extending the trip. I had $34 in gas there, and then I had to add $88 extra because it was a lot of mileage. So I had a whole cost associated with the rental car of $297.88. All right, I had one Lyft trip, which was $18.45, and then I had an Uber trip, which was $11.58. I only spent $73.95 on that Airbnb that we already talked about. I spent $33 on airport parking in Nashville. I ended up spending $4.39 on Wendy's, $2.50 at Starbucks, $8.18 at that Walmart. So I only had a total food cost of around 15 bucks, which was pretty awesome. Lastly, I paid $37 for the shirt for actually being in the wedding, and then I did pay $33 for a new pair of jeans. Now, that's not super fair to say it's total wedding expense because I actually only have one pair of jeans that has a hole in the back pocket, so it was about time to get a new pair of jeans anyways, so it wasn't a big deal. So that brings the overall trip cost to $727.14, but if you subtract out the flight, because I did get that for free, that's a total cost to me of $547.14. I recognize that this travel style isn't for everybody, and not everybody is willing to make those particular sacrifices. But I just shot this video because I want to challenge you to think outside the box a little bit. I want to challenge you to think through what really matters and what really is important to you when you're traveling, especially for a wedding. It's not normal to go camping to attend a friend's wedding, but you know what is normal is going into debt to attend a friend's wedding. And that doesn't sound like any fun at all. So why in the world would I want to be normal? So this is where you really have to think about what's important to you. What can you sacrifice? Can you sacrifice going to the wedding altogether? If not, how can you do it cheaply so that you can afford it without going into debt for it? So that's it, guys. I hope you learned something about how to travel cheaply, or at least how to be more mindful and recognize that you can make things happen when you really want to. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, be sure to subscribe to this channel. And don't forget that I can show you how to travel cheaply. I can show you how to travel more mindfully, but I can't make you do it. The choice is yours. I'll see y'all next time.